All right, I'm going to interrupt you now. I'm going to ask you the second question. By the way, when I do this in a long-term seminar, I'll give you like 3 to 5 minutes to do each of these questions, but we're just truncating it for the sake of time. So first question was, what are you mad about? Next question, what are you sad about? Next question. What are you anxious about? Okay, and then last question. What are you glad about? What are you happy about? Okay. Again, I normally would give a lot more time for this, but let's process this together because, whoops, where am I? Yeah. Okay. What was it like for you to do this exercise? What did it feel like? What was the resistance? What did it feel like? Sorry? Good?
Yeah. And I've been aware of other stuff.
You've been aware of all these things, so you sort of let it come out. Okay, good. So did it flow for you? Uh-huh. Okay, good. Others? You were shocked. Ah. Tell us more. Okay. You didn't know you were mad about it? Okay. That's interesting. Yeah. So you learned something there. Okay. What else? Wait, what did you say?
I said I've always had.
You do. So tell us.
Like others.
Okay. You'll have a chance. Oh yeah? Interesting. Yeah. You know, I've done this with a lot of groups, and I was looking around. Most of you are just, writing furiously. I've seen other groups where, like, a lot of people are just like sitting there twiddling their thumbs. I don't know. Interesting. Yes, that's you. Okay. So what was happening for you? Okay. So not much coming easily. Okay. That's okay. This is just sort of a snapshot. This is sort of a little snapshot for us to experience. I'll get to you in 1 second. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Uh-huh. Which is great. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I appreciate the fact that you're willing to do that, and you're stretching yourself, and you have somebody to talk to, but you overcame fear and anxiety to come here.
No, I'm not. I don't get very sad.
Okay.
People with this, I
Yeah.
take that upon myself.
Okay. Now, and you get sad then.
Yeah, you were talking about that in the other one. You're helping somebody who get their emotion.
The secondary trauma we talked about. Right. Right. Did you want to say?
Well, like for me, I got a lot of things that I'm mad about, but I'm also sad about.
Ah, interesting.
Because they go kind of hand in hand.
Yeah, that's one of the things I was interested in. Did you have same things in one category that you were on the other? So that's interesting that you said that. So you said there's some of the things you're mad about, you're sad about.
Yeah.
Okay. And is that helpful to see that and understand that? Most of the time we're mad and we don't understand that we're actually sad inside. And that's why I have this next graphic here. So anger is what we call a secondary emotion. And it's something that you feel very easily, some of you. I shouldn't even say that because a lot of you don't feel anger too much, when you ought to actually. But so secondary emotion is anger. The primary emotion would be sadness. So a really nice thing to understand is if you get angry with somebody and furious with somebody, particularly somebody who's close with you, you'll notice probably that if you slow down and you go underneath, you go, oh, I'm also sad about this. Now, I teach a course called, it's a marriage seminar called Created for Connection. And one of the things that we try to help couples do in their marriages or relationships is to understand that what you show, that I'm going to teach on this at lunch, but the iceberg represents above the waterline what you're aware of, below the waterline is what you're not aware of. So most of us are aware of our anger, but we're not aware of our sadness. And when we're aware of our anger, we communicate our anger a lot of times, right? So if you think of the typical, stereotypical fight, maybe between a husband and wife, they're arguing, and they fight like lawyers trying to prove their points. And what gets communicated is the anger. What doesn't get communicated is the softer emotions underneath, sadness, the longing underneath. And what we try to help couples do is start to communicate what's the sadness. You know, he comes home late for dinner, she's just prepared an amazing meal, and he spoiled it by 3 hours late. And she screams at him or yells at him, "I can't believe you've done this to me." And he says, "Well, you don't appreciate how hard I work." Well, the question is, what are you sad about? And if you communicate the sadness, much more likely to get an empathetic response than the anger. "I hate you because you did this, this, this." Well, I hate you too. Or, "I was longing to be with you, and I'm so disappointed we can't be together." Right? That's they're communicating what's really underneath there. So it's just you didn't pay for that one. I'm just giving you that one. But that's a piece of this, so it's very helpful to understand that. But anyway, so you notice that you have things that you're angry about and sad about. I would encourage you, again, the premise here is emotional awareness. If you're not very emotionally aware, this is a wonderful exercise to do before the Lord and with somebody else sometimes too. What am I sad about? What am I glad about? What am I anxious about? And it gets you in touch with what's going on internally on the inside. That's really important because we're talking about processing emotion in a healthy way. Most of us don't process emotion, period, much less in a healthy way. And I'll show that now. And by the way, what was most difficult? These are questions for you to ask yourself, as you reflect. What did you discover about yourself? Let's just ask that one for a moment. What did you discover about yourself when you did this exercise?
I think you can reconnect with the emotion, with the situation that made you think.
Yes. You can reconnect with the situation and yourself. Right? What's going on in me? It's important to have self-awareness. If you don't have self-awareness, you're going to leak. Yeah.
Some emotions were easier to come up with some.
Yes.
Yeah. Anger.
So that was quick for you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. What was hard to come up with?
The last one.
What are you glad about? Okay. And so for some of us, it's the other way around. I can't really get in touch with my anger. I can certainly get in touch with my sadness or my anxiety, for example. Okay. I personally struggle with anxiety. I struggle with it a lot. So I have to slow down and go, what am I anxious about right now? You're going to get in front of people and you're not going to know what to say. Yeah. You're going to forget to put your pants on. I don't know. There's all kinds of things you get anxious about, right? So this is really helpful if you want to start to get in touch with emotion. And now, here's where I want to go with this, because this sort of sets you up to understand a way to process emotion. So I want to talk about the negative cycle, a negative way that many of us process emotion. So it's just going to be like a cycle. And I call this the masking and medicating. So number one, I experience some emotional pain. Maybe I'm angry, maybe I'm sad, maybe I'm lonely, I'm anxious, okay? And the negative cycle basically goes like this. I'm going to mask over it. Or I'm going to engage in denial of what I'm sad about or mad about. I'm going to cut off my emotions. I'm going to stay up in my head, and I'm not going to feel, okay? That's part of the negative cycle. Now what happens? We often, in order to cut off, we often medicate our negative emotions. And medication of emotion can take place in many different ways. How do we medicate our emotions? Let's just say lonely or sadness or anger. Yeah. Eat. Okay. That's an easy way to medicate. That's a very common way. Yeah. It relieves stress.
Distract.
How?
Find something to do to divert.
Yep. Okay, so distraction is a big thing, and it's really easy with a cell phone. Just go right to scrolling. go right to a reel or go do something, right? We can distract really easily. What else?
Isolation or separation.
Okay. Yep.
Somebody like just not be around.
Yeah. So withdraw. I withdraw. Get alone by myself. Okay. How else? Substances. Sure. Could be all the normal stuff that you think about, that you guys deal with all the time, right? Alcohol and drugs, sex, porn. Can distract that way, or medicate that way. Yeah.
I work with kids a lot too, self-injurious behavior, a lot of cutting and those
Okay.
things. Yeah.
Okay, so self-injurious behavior, sure. Multiple ways that we can medicate, including, by the way, busyness, activity. I'm gonna work harder. I'm gonna do great things for the Lord. Ministry can be a medication, by the way. Don't want to say that here, but I just wanted to say it. And then, of course, if we medicate with addictive things, then you get the brain chemistry going, and then, it's much more addictive. But notice, when we act in this way, no matter how much we medicate, the pain doesn't go away. The pain deepens, and then oftentimes we lose integrity by the way we start to interact with certain things. We do things that are sinful, overtly sinful, maybe even disqualifying. And so then what we experience is distance, powerlessness over that which we are really dealing with, whatever it is, isolation, ultimately hopelessness. If you don't deal with the pain and what you're dealing with, whatever it is that started the cycle, the hopelessness kicks in because you have no power and you have nowhere to go. And then that sometimes is further loss of integrity. And that's, that's often ends up in flame out. I usually have a thing here called flame out, which is ministry failure, overt ministry failure. You can engage in all these healthy, quote, healthy things and still be not walking in integrity before the Lord. You can use people in the service of your ministry as a medication, and the motive of the heart is not pure before the Lord. All right. So how about a healthy way to process emotions? That's what I want to walk through here. I said, check my time. All right, I think we're good. All right, before I go in there, any questions or thoughts about what I just showed you in terms of the unhealthy way? We call that masking and medicating. Yeah.
Well, I want to say thank you, because I've been in the church, in ministry for 20 years, and up until about 7 years ago, at one church I was at on staff, we had a counselor on staff as well, but before that, I just learned to really mask it. You gotta put on the,
Yes.
you're on staff, you're a leader, and, until it was sucking those things. But then when the counselor came, I went to her. At first, my pride got me like, nope, don't need that. But
Yeah.
then just really she taught me how to be aware, and it's okay if you're having a bad day. You don't
Right.
have to put that,
Right.
and being able to trust and draw
Yes.
people to share in your circle. So,
Sure.
So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Because it does. You can't, I'm guilty of it, like being in his ministry and youth ministry, it's like you can't, you can do yourself just to cover up, but
Yeah.
no.
That's right. and you're right. We put on whatever the mask of spirituality looks like in your tribe or your church.
Yeah.
We do that.
Yep.
Are you anxious? No. I'm not anxious. Have you read Philippians? Be anxious for nothing. Paul says, be anxious for nothing. I'm not sinning and being anxious. And then we just cut off and deny. Yeah, that's right.
But the question, you talked about the Psalms and watching David go through all.
Yeah.
A huge range of emotions. So healthy ways with that is to get to the point in your relationship with the Lord. Do what the Lord Jesus talks about, prayer, supplication.
Yes, you can go to prayer and supplication and go to Christ, which is, you're anticipating exactly where I'm going here. Yeah. So, first, let me just ask these questions. When you are helped by somebody, you talked about, what's your name, by the way? Laura, when you talked about seeing a counselor. Let's just talk about what are the characteristics of someone when you go to them and you're hurting and it's a positive experience, what are those characteristics? I think that's what I was gonna ask. What- Acceptance. What else? What? You feel loved. What do they do to make you feel loved?
They listen.
Okay, they listen.
Non-judgmental.
Yeah.
Say that again.
Non